Born Primitive Outdoor is proud to partner with Montana Knife Company, Marsupial Gear, Evolution Outdoors, Sheep Feet, and Capture Gear. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks to our sponsors. Welcome back to the Born Primitive Outdoor podcast. I have got my brother from a ginger mother, actually, thinking about it, Dan Wallace, and my buddy Wally at the house here today, and I also have a new dog. So if you hear some shit in the background, that's the dog. But Dan came down from DuBois. It's a long trip for 7 mountain passes.
Yeah, it's like the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, it's tough. Remember that? You're younger than me, but you remember the Oregon Trail with the space bar, and then you'd be like, hey, you have syphilis, and like your whole crew would die? You ever play that?
Yeah, hell yeah, I did on a computer in the library at school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I remember. And then I can't remember. It was like not syphilis. I mean, it was then, actually.
Dysentery.
Dysentery, but I mean, I've read multiple times the different versions and whatever of how many STDs they were getting on that trip was pretty astonishing.
What else are you going to do for 6 months in a wagon?
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But we've got the first Academy course of 2026 this weekend coming up, which is Land Nav, which is great. But this podcast is going to be about the next Academy course we're going to be holding, which is February 28th and March 1st. There's only 28 days in February. For all you rednecks listening in, it's only a 2-day course. And how that is going to work, or what we're going to be teaching, is basically on Saturday, it will be from basic up to pretty high-level tuning for archery, go into everything from, yoke tuning, shimming over cams, different systems, how to pick your arrow, spine, some hacks, I would say, while you're tuning, things to look at, how to serve a bow, all kinds of stuff like that. Like I said, leveling a sight, many other things. And then on Sunday, Wally is going to take over, and Wally is going to be covering, go ahead.
Basically all of those same things, but in regards to a rifle. So we'll basically take it like, hey, I have a new rifle, or I have a new scope, how to mount that scope into a scope mount or your scope rings, how to mount it to your rifle, leveling it out. We'll use some tools that are super beneficial for that, as if you were going to do it at your house or at the range, and show everybody how to get a perfect level, and show them that you're leveling your reticle. And then we'll also show some like field expedient techniques in case your scope comes loose out in the field, out on a hunt or something like that, to get you back in the fight, so to speak, or back into that hunt.
Little repair kit, basically.
Yeah. Repair kit and some little tricks that we've picked up over the years. We'll go over how to zero your gun, what's the best range to zero your gun based off of what the desired end state is, or how you like to hunt or shoot. There's lots of different options. No one thing is correct. And then we'll go over how to true your rifle, use a chronograph, how to build like a ballistic curve, or understand
ballistic what your profile,
what your holds are, what your drops are for shooting past your zero range.
Yeah, and I mean, this really is going to parallel each other, because when you look at, like, Wally is going to talk about building the gun, but before or after he's going to talk about different calibers and what he prefers, because that question gets asked a lot, and there's so many calibers out there now. And I'm going to do the same thing for archery, as far as arrow weight, what's most beneficial, the positives of one, the negatives of it, FOC, all of that stuff is going to be laid out. And I again, when I say parallel, me just getting more and more into gun hunting, it can get pretty confusing. I mean, on my end, I have like Wally and, pretty much Wally and John Pinch are the two guys I'll chat with back and forth. And on the archery side, I have guys send, fucking like charts, like shit that I don't even do for work,
right,
of different arrow weights of 10 to 15 grains apart, and stuff that I don't even think about, but they need an answer from someone that they trust of, can I kill a moose with this, or whatever. Well, I have those same questions with a gun, you know, and people ask me questions I should not be really answering, and so I just try to answer them with the knowledge that I have. Like I've killed a bison with a 6.5 PRC with not much issue, right? But if you ask Bart Lancaster, that might be 30 cal. That's it. That's his deal. But you shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor. Not only you have a pile of guns, but you've killed a bunch of stuff with a Creedmoor.
Actually, no, very little with that. I've killed most everything with a 308.
Yeah, well, there you go.
And it's a similar bullet. And man, as soon as you get on this topic, guys come out of the woodwork with.
Oh, a 3.8's like kissing your sister in the hunting world.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah. Even though it's probably killed more than any other.
It's killed a lot.
Any other round.
Yeah. And there's some good old boys around here who are smoking elk with a 270.
Yeah.
You know, but we'll talk through objectively, you know, pros and cons to each. What's the most ideal round for the area that you live or the animal that you like to hunt, and just mostly just make it like a transfer of knowledge. You know, make it open for them and let people share some of their stories and
ask questions.
Yeah, and just really try to show people that there is no right answer. There's personal preference, and then here's sort of parameters for your.
Just like archery.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because you can go to Sam Davis, who's a Sheridan boy, big, yoked up, great dude, shoots 80 pounds with a 400-something grain arrow at some ridiculous speed, which I never promote. Right now, that dude is a killer, so you can't
shoot a laser beam.
Oh, dude! I mean, and he's big. I mean, when I say big, he's probably bigger than me. I mean, certainly when I say bigger than me, he's probably 6'2", 230. I would guess. He lean.
He's a big boy. Yeah.
And he's a Wyoming boy. Like he's killed shit since birth. Who am I to argue? You know, because people like Sam does this, and I'm like, are you Sam? And if you are someone who's going to emulate that, build your confidence off of what he's doing. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're going to emulate me or build your confidence off of that, I'm a 280 foot per second guy. But there's a lot of shit we'll discuss on both sides of this gun and bow in the middle of that, because there is going to be times you may look back and wish you might have been a Sam guy or an Aron guy. Yeah. On that note, on the rifle side of things, you know, and we'll talk about this, but like most military guys are more of a like Kurt, when we were going to build him out a gun, he's like, I'll probably get a 308. And I'm like, no, you're not. And he's like, what? I'm like, there's nothing sexy about a 308. But, you know, I was like, dude, you got to do a 300 PRC 7, PRC shit. And again, these aren't things that I was speaking off of knowledge. It was the look, right? And I just know the look of a 308 is not a good look compared to, well, what would you say the newest go-to round would be for an all-around gun?
All-around hunting gun, 7 PRC.
Yeah, and when you look at that, I shot a 6.5 PRC. Well, let's talk the difference. This is a good question because people ask me, and I'm like, if I have to explain it, I can't, right? I mean, I can tell you like the basic knowledge shit, but I certainly can't go into depth. So from a 6.5 PRC to a 7 to a 300 PRC, what are some of the differences with that?
The size and weight of the bullet, and what that's going to affect. It can affect two things. It's going to affect the ballistic coefficient, which for people who don't know what that means is how
fast the bullet drops, basically?
Well, sort of how efficiently it flies through the air, through the atmospherics that it's going through, how stable it is for a certain range, and the higher the ballistic coefficient, the flatter the trajectory will be for longer.
So give me an idea on Google. Sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
I got 7P, and the first thing Google did, I've never typed this in, was 7 PRC versus 300 PRC. And all I typed was 7P. These are important things, obviously, people are looking for. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the other big factor to take into account for hunting specifically, not so much for shooting competitions or just shooting at the range, is what your terminal ballistics will be, or how much kinetic energy that bullet will still have when it's impacting its desired target. So how much damage, like soft tissue damage, will that bullet bring when it hits the animal? And a lot of people focus on that. They I think they overcaliber because they may feel like they're less accurate, right? So they're like, well, if I just put this round in that body, it'll tear it apart.
Same fucking thing with a bow.
With a bow, yeah.
So, and And I'll go back to the 7 PRC thing in a minute, and that's something like Gillingham is all about speed. He's one of the more well-known, probably the most knowledgeable archer in the history of mankind, almost too much. He's like, the one thing that I can't control is the animal running out. I can practice judging, but most people won't, so you want a faster arrow. But that faster arrow is not going to have as much wallop, and so if you hit the scap, you may say, fuck Tim, I want to shoot a heavier arrow. But if you're designing everything to shoot something in the scapula, you're leaving out accuracy, which not sucking is very important for both sides. And when you guide, which Wally and I both do, for me, like, and I'll read this here. It says the 7 PRC offers flatter trajectory and less recoil with excellent long-range performance, great for elk, versatile hunting. While the 300 PRC provides superior imagery, heavier bullet options for larger game, moose, bear, whatever, and extreme long range, ELR, but with more recoil. And then it goes on to some other stuff. So if you're trying to decide on an arrow or a bullet, it's fucking confusing because I've looked on the bullet side of things. It's more people watching for me because people get violent over the...
Oh, it turns into a nasty, nasty conversation.
Oh, and the thing is, like, my 300 PRC, you saw the hole I shot in that doe. Mm-hmm. It was a basketball coming out the back side of it. But my other gun went down, so I didn't have a choice. So, like, reality, a 7 would be better for an all-around gun because I've been using a 6.5 for pretty much everything. Mm. But there are times where I've walloped an Outdad, for example, 3 times with a 6.5, and we didn't find it. Mm-hmm. And that was 3 hits. I don't know where it was running, and it also had an arrow stuck in it. Would a 300 would have been better, you know what I mean? Or a 225 grain. Well, people ask me this shit, and I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't speak from experience, but you can't always go bigger is better because there's downsides to it. So, and Wally's going to cover a lot of that in the course.
We'll get into the weeds on that, which I'm not looking forward to because you know that there's going to be people in the room who are going to have varying opinions. But the thing that I've found interesting since starting guiding these last few years and seeing, you know, almost 100 animals get hit and using different guns, different bullets, different scenarios, it's people will have an experience with that round and that gun and that animal, and then they'll just take that to the bank
forever.
Yeah. And
same with a bow, right? Same with broadhead or arrow weight.
Yeah. This happened to me this one time, and I will never, ever, ever consider anything else. And it's like, just this year alone, my dad and I hunt with the same gun. We both have a Sig Cross 16-inch barrel 308, right? Nothing fancy. I took him out, and he got his elk this year, and his shot was perfectly placed. One round, dropped a 320 bull. It took 4 steps, and it died.
Yeah.
He hit it right. He double lunged it. Then 2 weeks later, I go out and with Ty, we were talking about this in the last podcast, and I shoot my bull, and I put the first round double lung. It didn't even move, right? I hit it again immediately, double lung, same thing. It kind of stutter stepped. And then I was like, fuck.
Panicking a mistake.
Yeah. And I'm like, fuck this. So I put the third round right in its pump house, and it went down. That was the exact same gun, the exact same bullet, and it was the same species of animal, about the same size. I think mine was like 315 bull.
Yeah.
And somebody would see that, or another person would do that and be like, fuck a 308.
Yeah.
I had to shoot that thing 3 times, blah, blah, blah. Well, we cut it open, Ty and I, because we were super curious. And, I mean, the first 2 shots were almost touching. And then the third one, I blew his heart out because I just moved my point of aim. I was like, I'm done fucking with this. Yeah. And he had turned, directly full frontal.
Yeah.
So it was easy to do that. But once you see it happen enough, you don't get stuck on that one experience and what happened, because I had just seen that round, like I'd seen it do so many times before, both with my hunters or myself, smoke something and stone it dead.
Yeah.
The animals aren't the same. They're like people. You know what I mean? Like, you could be standing next to a dude who's the exact same size and build as you, and one of you could be significantly tougher than the other one.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just dumber and tougher, or whatever.
More will to live.
Exactly.
Is what it is for animals.
Yeah. And maybe my bull, because he was rutting so hard, maybe all of his head was in his dick, and he was like, I don't care.
It just happened to me the other day.
Yeah. Exactly. that you'll have that on them big jobs, but well, and the only reason to bring that up is because what I hope to talk about in this next course is to not get stuck on the one situation that happened. Like, if the more you understand about how ballistics work, how terminal ballistics work, the better suited you'll be to make a decision on how you want your gun build to be, or your bow build.
And each day will be paralleling a lot, because I was shooting a, beast broadhead, or pick a broadhead, hit it in the scap, never going to shoot a mechanical again.
Right.
I'm like, well, you hit it in the scap, right? But the next, and it's like backpack hunting, and I'll circle around the whole barn here and come back in the front door in a second. When you backpack hunt, the first time you go, your shit's probably heavy and you've carried too much. So then the second time you go, your shit's probably light and you didn't carry enough. Somewhere during your experience of writing your book on backpack hunting, you come up with what works, right? You'll know, like, there's no doubt. But unless you get to go all the time, your fucking book is all fucked up, right? Each chapter is squirrely. Arrows, the same thing, because that guy could have shot something in the diaphragm stomach area with a small fixed blade, no blood, no animal, where more trauma by far is better.
Right.
So you could wait to another year, and this was explained to me, or made sense to me better, by a dude who was a lot greener, is we get to see shit die all the time.
All the time.
And so we have a much different perspective on it, because they're all going to fuck up, especially the Indian behind the bow or the cowboy behind the gun. Mm-hmm. And nobody ever says,
it's
I
me.
fucked up. Yeah, you never.
No, it wasn't me, man. That shot was fucking perfect.
Yep. And so the reality of it is though, when you are able to, like, attend a course like this and listen to guys that have done it, that you sometimes can bring some enlightenment to it, of like something to think about, right? Because, one of the questions I get asked a lot is, like, if the end of the world, right, like whatever survival and all these prepper books, what gun would I choose?
Oh, I get that all the time.
It's a 22. I would take a 22.
Would you?
And people are like, are you sure? And I'm like, well, look, if you're really talking about survival, I'm looking at more of, I can kill a deer with a 22, squirrels, rabbits. But if you're looking at also shooting people, that's a little bit different. So it's kind of a too broad of a question, because it's like, you can kill people with a 22, but I can carry way more ammo, and it's cheaper, and I can stockpile it easier, right? And so people are like, you wouldn't bring a 5.56 or whatever. I'm like, well, it's a good option, right? I'm just saying, for me, I'm thinking more of shooting marmots and squirrels,
rabbits,
shit to live off of, not people. Well, you take somebody with maybe your experience, where there's a whole different side of your life where you're like, probably maybe not a 22, right? Well, it's the same thing when you're looking at hunting, where guys are like, I'm this 30 cal guy. It's in the cliffs. I want it to go down immediately, right? And I get that. And depending upon what 30 cal option, because there's a lot, you can take a guy that's shooting a 6.5 PRC, and he can eat that whole fucking scenario alive with ballistic whatever, right? Like, he can talk his way through it. The thing is when you go online and look, you're more fucked up when you left than when you started.
Absolutely.
So, and I mean, same way again with arrow weight. I mean, I have so many people. My buddy James Yates did this huge study with Easton of arrow trajectory, flight, build, bane. And I shoot a 5 fletch because Dale with evolution, so like, try it, you'll whatever. And it's a bitch to, whatever, prep and everything. Are you going to change? And I'm like, I didn't watch his study. Nothing he said is going to change. I love James, and he's one of the he's an engineer. Like, I mean, it's a sleep aid listening to him talk, because he goes over so much shit you'll fall asleep, because the fucking guy's a genius.
Yeah.
And they're like, none of it? And I'm like, well, I caught some of the highlights, but I was like, what I can tell you, though, is nothing will change my perspective or point of view or build, because I know it works. I've been using it. Now, is there something major that could change that he did compared to what I'm doing? Not major. Minor. Very minor, right? So would 2.75, 3 fletched at 2-degree offset, group better 120 yards. Who the fuck can shoot 120 accurately? Not many, right? Mm-hmm. And how much better will it be when it goes through the animal? Who can tell that? So I'm more of this works, and I'm not even I used to, right? I'm only going to test it for testing purposes when people ask. But on the gun side of things, I would have, when I grabbed they built me a 6.5 PRC, I didn't even think twice about shooting a lot of animals with that. Mm-hmm. So I was too dumb to even know that something could have been better. And when I say that, I know there's a bunch of different calibers or whatever, but I would have went, I think I killed 3 fucking bison with a 6.5 PRC, and they didn't run far.
Yep.
But I've read people say, like, not to shoot a 6.5 PRC anything bigger than a deer.
Right.
But then I know dudes whacking moose with 6.5 PRCs and not even thinking twice. So it can be very confusing for somebody starting out.
The advice that I give people when they do ask, because I just refuse to get into this big argument, is find something that you shoot very accurately and just continue to train to that within reason, right? Obviously, don't go hunt an elk with a 22 or don't go hunt a rabbit with a 7 PRC, right?
Yeah.
But the reality is animals don't have, there is no like higher level of care they can't go get fixed. So if you can put a hole in the vital animal or the vital organ of any animal, like it's going to die, if you can put the bullet where you want it to go, then that's your best bet, right? Because I've had guys come out like, I just had this $15,000 rifle built, and this turret
and that's not an exaggeration, by the way, for people that aren't gun. That is a legitimate price.
So, yeah. Like some of these guys come out and what they're trying to do is buy accuracy because they have the money and the means to do so. And they're like, it's a $15,000 build. This scope, like the reticle has been etched for this round at this density altitude. Here's my exact holds, and they've spent all this money and they pull it out of the case and it's got the assembly lube on it.
Yeah.
And they've never shot it, and their group is, it's a 10-inch group.
Yeah.
And then you have another, like a good old boy, and he's got this hand-me-down rifle from his grandfather. And
we talk about this all the time.
Yeah, and a round that's been getting used for, decades. And he'll just smack animals in the heart, and those animals die. So the reality is, what I tell a lot of people is pick a round within reason, like that's a proper caliber for the size of the animal. What round can you get at the best price?
Yeah.
Because if you can only afford 20 rounds of this $4 round Wildcat cartridge, and all you do is go out and shoot 3 times each year before your hunt to make sure it's zeroed, and then try to shoot your animal, that's probably not as beneficial as being able to afford 400 rounds of this off-the-shelf Walmart ammo and putting some range time in. If you put the work in and you hit where you want to hit, you're going to do fine.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned, you and I had went somewhere looking at some guns to buy, and I remember you had mentioned something about don't be afraid of a guy with 100 guns and 1 box of ammo. The guy with 1 gun and 100 box of ammo is the lethal one, or something like that, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Same thing with archery, right? It's the same principle, right? Because I tell guys, I'm like, look, get an arrow that is at your local pro shop, get a build that is reasonable in the happy medium, and turn the fucking internet off and shoot. Good. Right? Stop looking.
Yeah.
Because it gets to where somebody's chasing the end of the rainbow, and there's no end of the rainbow because you can critique any of those things. Yeah. But if you're confident with it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The one thing I think though, obviously when we're teaching the course, like when you look at bow builds and tuning or whatever, the things that parallel is when you walk in to buy a gun is, what are you going to be hunting? How many pounds can you pull? When I say pounds can you pull, that also different but the same. The weight of a gun is a big deal. And I don't realize it because I don't give a shit. I don't mind carrying a heavy gun, but I can tell you day 9 on a sheep hunt, you're probably going to be thinking, did I really need a 13-pound gun?
Yeah.
And I would say, a 6.5 to 7 pound gun, a mountain hunting type weight gun, isn't as accurate as a heavier gun generally, and things like that. And people ask me this and all the time, like, well, how fucking far are you going to shoot?
Yeah.
Probably out to 4.
And you've got a 27-inch long, 15-pound gun.
Yeah, I'm like, anything, 400 to 500 with practice and technology is really not that far anymore.
No.
Especially if you practice, right? And so the thing that I always have to take a step back from is asking someone like you, or I'll just use John Pinch. When somebody asks me a basic general question, I'm like, man, shoot around a 465 grain arrow and, do whatever and you'll be fine. But they've read the internet and it's confusing them. And John, when I ask him a question, he's like, 500, whatever the fuck you want. Doesn't matter. Just shoot, he'll literally shoot whatever basically caliber and setup you want. He's like, really, the key is have good rings, right? Some people think about good build, right? Good rings, a good build. And he's like, after that, 500 yards with even, whatever caliber is really not anything to overthink, which is what you're saying. Right. And I've had so many people, which I'm glad you're doing, because originally we didn't talk about doing your day. We were going to do archery. And then you'd brought it up, and I'm like, fuck, because, daily I get, hey, what build is that?
Gun questions.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, it's a 300 PRC. What action? And I got to get on the website. And fucking, they built it for me. I'm not that guy. Mm-hmm. How is it? And I'm like, it hits everything I aim at, I'm like, well, what if I bought a Bergara? Is that going to be as good? I'm not the guy to ask that, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a big question on, is a custom build Gunworks Viking Mountain Forged, is a Bergara going to be, because they built it to look like those, is a Bergara going to be as accurate as those in comparison, right?
It's going to be as accurate as you are. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that nobody ever wants to address. Yeah. Is you could take a $500-600 Tikka rifle from Walmart, which my mom hunts with one of those, and it's an absolute fucking hammer, right? Like, it shoots a sub half-minute group, and you can shoot that just as well as a $10,000 build. Like, you've got to, this always happens to me, like when someone wants to go out and do that, I just lay them down in the prone, totally calm. I'm going to say, shoot your best 5 rounds at 100 yards. And they shoot anywhere between, depending on the guy, a half-minute group to a 4-minute group. And it's like, well, dude, if you're shooting a 4-minute group, you don't need to worry about talking about builds or thinking about builds. You need to shoot. Yeah. You need to train. You need to practice. It's like when I was on that contract a couple of years ago, and I was going to go on my first archery hunt, and I had gotten a bow, and I don't know shit about archery, and I hit you up, and I was like, hey man, I don't know anything about arrows. They confuse me. I don't understand it. And you're like, I'll build you a dozen arrows. I didn't ask you if they were mechanical or fixed. I didn't ask you what the arrow weight was, the fucking fletching. I don't know any of that, or I didn't at the time. Yeah. And I said, hey, can you just build me some arrows? You built me 6 with field tips, and you built me 6 with broadheads. Yeah. And I took those. I got home from that contract. I stopped at your house, picked up that shit, and left. And I brought my target with me. I went down to Colorado, and I shot the whole first day. I just shot the target, right? Yeah. And went out and hunted. And when that bull came within, 20 yards, I put it in the pocket. Yeah. And it did fine. And I couldn't tell you anything about that arrow. It hit where I needed it to hit. Yeah. And that bull died.
That was being the 6.5.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Just be accurate. Yeah. And to your point about the weight of what you're carrying around the backcountry, that's a big thing for me. And I do get in this conversation occasionally when people get into it, but they're like, well, what's the perfect length for the barrel or whatever? And I'm a big proponent of shooting the shortest barrel that you can, because there's a big misconception that the longer the barrel, the more accurate you're going to be. That's not the case. The longer the barrel, the faster the bullet is going to travel, which gives it a flatter trajectory or less drop downrange. But the reality is that's more weight and that's more length. So that may not matter if you're at the range or you're in a tree stand or a ground blind. But if it's in your backpack and you're carrying it on your back for 6, 7, 8 days, it's going to start to matter. Yeah. And a shorter barrel is actually inherently more accurate because there's less barrel whip, which basically means that when you shoot on a long barrel, that energy transfers through the barrel as the bullet is coming out of it. and it actually on a very, very, not microscopic, but it's very hard to see. You get a little bit of a flex in the barrel as the bullet leaves, and that decreases your accuracy. If you were to shoot a 12-inch barrel and a 26-inch barrel in a vacuum, and you did it with like a machine and not a human error involved, the grouping will be tighter on a shorter barrel because it's shorter and it's stiffer and it has less barrel whip. So I've got a 12.5-inch AR-10. It's a Noveske AR-10, and it's a 308, and I can shoot that. I think I shoot about a .3 MOA group, and I'll smack a piece of steel at 1,000 yards with that all day. If you can do that with a 12.5-inch barrel, why would you take a 26-inch barrel on a hunt?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a shorter barrel is better for backcountry hunting.
Yeah.
If you've trained to it.
Well, and those are the things that, like with this course, we'll talk about more. But like when I was getting these recent guns built, they were like, "What barrel length?" I'm like, "You tell me." And one of the things John said was like a 23-inch barrel is about as long as you want to go. And he's like, and that's pretty long. He said, really 18 plus suppressor is, like for him, and I don't want to misspeak for John, but I think he was saying 18 6-inch suppressor is about perfect.
Like you don't go
sweet spot. He's like, because if you go with a 23-inch barrel and a suppressor, he's like,
it's like Excalibur.
Oh, well,
it's like Braveheart's sword. Yeah,
I mean, I'm working on it over there. And he was like, dude, the benefit, because he started talking, and I don't want to misspeak. The shorter barrel, the thing that people have in their brain is the loss of powder or energy coming out, right?
You don't get as much burn.
Burn time. And, but the residual or how much does that matter, depending or whatever on the length wise. And I was just like, dude, just build me what you would fucking yourself, right? So, because I have a dongle over there. And we packed it around in the backcountry, and but I carried it for everyone. But I can tell you fucking know when that gun's on your back. It's because I've got that's the other thing. Scopes is another question I get. But I've got a Maven R4, which is a lot like a Night Force. It's very heavy because I like a bigger objective. That's the other thing I get is power. And a guy asked me the other day, he's like, I can't remember what it was, 3 to 15 or 4 to 18, and I'm like, dude, too much power is almost bad in my opinion, in guiding for most people, because it's like shooting with a pin on your bow and putting a 6-power scope on. You are seeing not quite, but 6 times the movement.
Yeah.
And then, like target acquisition is fucking a nightmare.
Honestly, and let's talk about that for a second. Target acquisition becomes a nightmare when you hand a hunter or they bring their own really high-powered scope, because what do most guys do? They'll bang that magnification in as far as it will go because it makes them feel better. Target acquisition is difficult. What's almost impossible that I've seen as a guide is target reacquisition.
Yeah.
Because how many times do you see a miss or they need to make another shot and they're zoomed into fucking 25 power. They're looking through a soda straw. They take their first shot on the animal and then you can't get them back on that animal.
Well, and the courses I've taught with rifle are really not about anything they're talking about. It is target acquisition. Like because I'll set multiple different targets out, and I'm a dick on purpose because usually guides, it takes a very good guide to keep their shit together too, right? Because they're losing their fucking mind as well. So when you biff it and it's at 220,
they're pissed,
and they're like, "Fucking reload! It's up and right, high and right." The guy never remembers to dial back, and so we do drills where I'm like, the first thing you do when you fucking shoot is jack around in and dial that motherfucker back, get back on. People forget, right? And so that's when I was like, dude, 18 power's quite a bit unless you're really, and this is me speaking, but this is me hunting and guiding, is like 18 is pretty good, right? You're going to have to really reach out and touch something to where 18 is not enough. And so I'm like, how far are you shooting? He's like 500 max. And I'm like,
you can do that at 10 power.
Yeah, I was like, dude, you're good. And honestly, guiding, a lot of times when I dial up, I lie.
Yeah.
They have in mental Carlos Hascock. And so I'm like, and then I just kind of drift my hand away, and I'm at like 12.
Yeah.
They have no idea because they're seeing potentially on like 12 power less movement, and they don't even have any idea. And that extra movement can be really, really bad. I mean, and then if you watch people when they don't know you've, loaded no round, right, what it looks like when they fire, you always say it, everybody, but when you go to your basic primal instinct when shit's going south, which is generally hammering the trigger and closing your eyes, right?
Yeah. People will shoot an animal and they will pull that trigger with their ass cheeks. Their whole body jerks when they go to pull the trigger. It's hysterical.
I was with Bart, and I've told you this story. We watched a guy cycle 3 live rounds on a charging grizzly. He never
touched
fired
the
one.
trigger.
Well, and then he was like, "Where'd I hit him?" And I was like, "You didn't." It was on film.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Dude, you cycled through 3 live rounds. You never hit the trigger." He's like, "The fuck I didn't." I'm like, "We're gonna find those rounds because I guarantee that primer's safe. It's been marked as safe." And we had a goat client, and I won't mention names because he's a friend, and literally before the trigger was hit, his head was off that scope.
Yeah.
I mean, I was watching slow-mo and lifting, and I mean, we fired a lot of rounds and didn't hit anything. And so that's where you can really, on a shooting course, really learn your biggest deficiencies. Because like when we were doing it, we film, archery-wise too, I film. Because the film doesn't lie, and then somebody can really see it. Because you get a lot of people, I'll have courses I've taught, like having a guy come up and execute a shot. And he's lying to the entire class and me, and I'm like, you didn't punch that from nerves from being around? No, it's clean. I'm like, do you want to watch? Because that was not clean, but you can make yourself believe pretty much anything you want. Anyway, off the subject of that, we're going to freak people out coming to the course. On this course, you don't have to shoot, so you won't get made fun of. But I think that is the best way to having somebody knows what they're doing and watching you and helping you. Because I had Amy in the prone in the garage going from telephone pole to back and forth, because a lot of people like archery. They practice one shot flat ground. Reloading is you watch any video of me, I am reloading fast, like bow or gun. Like there's another arrow coming and there's a bullet coming right after. And that's another thing people don't do.
That second shot in hunting, whether you have to take it or not, like being able to take the second shot is probably the most important skill set to have. This year, before we went and did some pronghorn hunting, and it was my mom. It was her first Western big game animal, and she's only really hunted like in Florida and Texas, out of a tree stand or ground blind, off of a side-by-side, things like that. And I was also with my buddy JP. It was also his first Western big game animal, and we went to the range, and I ran him through drills where we would just have them shoot at a target at 100 yards, and then they would have to get up, jog, come back, get back on that target with a little bit of an elevated heart rate. And right before they would shoot, I would switch which target they had to hit. They had to find it and hit it within a certain amount of time. And when they moved, I would change like the magnification on their scope, or I would mess with their bipod leg, or just do something that they'd have to come back and fix or change right before their next shot. And just inducing a little bit of elevated heart rate and one variable from what they expected, which was to mimic like an animal moving after the first shot, would just unravel the situation. And we did that over and over and over again. And then when we finally went out on the hunt, it was something that they both were able to utilize. JP had to shoot his antelope, I think 3 times. To put it down, and he told me after, he's like, if we hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been able to do it. Like the whole, like you said, backing it out, to reacquire it. He had never had to do that. And it became super helpful.
No, for sure. Well, we've probably covered enough to give you an idea of what we're going to be going through. We will have we'll have stuff up on social media. You can email me at aaron@bornprimitive.com if you have questions on the archery side. Do you want to give your email out or no?
No.
Okay. So on anything, email me, but we'll have stuff up on Instagram, as far as the dates, but the dates are going to be February 28th and March 1st. The price right now is going to be roughly $125 to $150 a day. So we suggest you to sign up for both days, but if you never pick up a gun or bow, you can just sign up for one day or the other. And what we'll probably do is you'll get like a 10% discount if you sign up for both days. But we'll have that up, whatever. And then, on Instagram once Jerry gets all the final stuff done on that. The only other thing I would say is, right now we're thinking, on my end, bring your bow, right? We may not do anything with that bow, but I would like the option if your bow's really jacked up that I might use that for a teaching. And on the gun side, should people bring up their guns or no?
Yeah, absolutely. If they want to and they can, that's not a problem for them. Tell them to bring their guns and we'll look at everybody's setup and we can critique it or talk through it. And then also if we're going to go through scope mounting and leveling, they can be at the table and be going through that same process with us watching so that when they do leave the class, they've got a rifle that they have confidence in its setup.
Yeah, same thing, both sides. And then this will be more than most likely at the Fremont Center here. It'll be in Riverton, but we'll probably be holding it at the Fremont Center in one of the classrooms. So again, it's Aron at bornprimitive.com, and on social media, it's Aron Snyder. Get a hold of me on that as well. So we look forward to everybody coming out. We're probably going to cap this at 30 people. We'll kind of assess that. It could be up to 50, but this one, because of the lower price, is probably going to sell out pretty quickly. So something to keep in mind. But yeah, appreciate everybody tuning in, and thanks for coming over, Wally.
Of course, man.
I'm going to go probably clean up dog pee now.